Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and this program, whenever we start these programs, I always do a little countdown. 3, 2, 1, and away we go with the video and the audio, the podcasts, the radio broadcast, as well as the video cast. Why is that important, you ask? Well, it's important because numbers are important, and we're going to be talking about numbers today. Yes, indeed we are. We're going to be talking with our very special guest all about numbers. And Jesse Kalsi is my guest. And Jesse, where are you on the planet today?
I'm here in the state of California. It's a city called Fremont in Northern California.
So you're in the same state as I.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to have you on the program. I really appreciate you taking time to talk to us today.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Well, now, what is it? Well, first of all, let me share with you that there's a name for this, and see if I can remember. I want to say it's kinesthesia. I think that's the right name. I see letters and numbers individually as colors, different colors. Okay? So when we start talking about numbers, I'm going to be seeing those numbers in color. As NBC would say, and now in living color, it's Tell Me Your Story.
That's very interesting. That's a gift.
Indeed. And what's interesting is, of course, when I start taking a look at words and months of the year, days of the week, each day takes on a different little hue, and then each month of the year and each decade and so on and so forth. And it's really kind of cool. I mean, I can't actually, I suppose that if I could tap into the actual colors, I might be able to draw them, but it's really kind of a neat experience. What is it about numbers that has so intrigued you and attracted you that not only have you written this book called All About Numbers, but the power of home numbers as well?
That's correct. So what happened was, when I came to America, many years ago, I'm like most immigrants, it was a difficult start. I was struggling. But at that time, I had some basic knowledge of numbers and the Vedic tradition. And as you are well aware, there are many schools of numerology. There's the Pythagorean system. There's something in the Americas. The Chinese have a system. The Hebrews have a different code, right? So, but whatever I knew was the Vedic tradition, right? And I had a very basic knowledge at that time. And as I was trying to, find my way in those challenging situations, I started using these numbers, I don't know, very mysteriously. And what happened is it started opening some doors, and which really surprised me. And then as time went on, I applied more, and I was very fortunate that the universe sent me many people as I moved up. And then as a real estate broker, and then practicing numbers on the side, right? They kind of worked really well together. So that's how it all happened. There's no one in my family who's in this business of numbers or astrology, or no one cares, nobody knows, right? But this just happened to come to me at a very difficult time. And that's how these books followed with my life experience here in America.
Now, would this fall under the category, or is it a separate category from numerology?
No, it's the same thing. It's astronumerology is what I practice. But this tradition is very prevalent in the Far East. In the Indian subcontinent. This is there. It's been there for 5,000-6,000 years, and so it's applied. It's used everywhere. It's very popular in the Bollywood film industry. It's very popular with big time business people, or I mean even the regular people now. So understanding that, just like you said earlier, it's cycle, it's time. It's we're not lucky every day, right? We all have our seasons, our times, right? So understanding your number code from this angle, this perspective, is based on my experience, definitely helps. It definitely helps you make the right decisions, or know when to do or when not to do. Well, that's the case in other numbers too. But when this one, I've used it so extensively that I feel that it definitely does tell you, how to harmonize your life, how to balance your energies, and it all starts with your basic, which is your date of birth. And so from the date of birth, we derive some, basic numbers, and then we kind of, harmonize our life around those numbers is all we do.
Now, is this also connected, because I think I heard you use the word, this is also connected with Vedic astrology?
Exactly, yeah. Vedic, yeah.
Yeah,
Really
we have
good.
I don't know if it's a mutual friend, but he's into Vedic astrology. He studied for many years. He has a website, astroview.com. His name is David Hawthorne here in the
Mhm.
States. He lived, I think he lived in Iowa. I think he's moved because he's retired and doesn't want to shovel snow anymore. But
Ah,
one of the things that I kind of concluded about Vedic astrology in particular was, as he would describe it, it is not telling you what's going to happen to you on any particular date or period of time. It's like a roadmap, and you're taking
exactly.
a journey, and he's telling you these are the conditions that you may come across as you travel down the road. Now, for example, in December of 2022, you might run into some rain, so you might want to take an umbrella. And I'm just using this as an example. You don't have to take an umbrella, but if you've got it, you can use it. If you don't have it, well, then you can't use it. And of course, he talks about using various crystals, precious
Wonderful.
gems and stones, wearing
Yes.
certain colors, and so
Yes.
on and so forth. And that has always fascinated me in that regard because many of the conversations we've had on this program, Jesse, have
Uh-huh.
had to do with vibration.
Yeah.
Everything has a vibration,
Yes.
including colors
Yes.
and obviously sounds.
Mhm.
Numbers have tones. This is one of the things that's intrigued me about the Hebrew language and the
Mhm.
Aleph Bet, for example. Every
Mhm.
one of the 22 letters in the Aleph Bet has its own legend. It has
Mhm.
its own color. It has its own number. It has its own vibration and so forth. Then you
Mhm.
start putting those letters together and it
Mhm.
creates a whole new legend and
Yes.
letters together with as words and sentences and so on and so forth. And that's why I've always felt that it's a darn shame that we don't know how to speak some of these languages and write them because so much is lost in the translation. How are you able to bridge the gap regarding translation for people here in America so that you are giving them the fullness of I will use this term, correct me if I'm wrong, astrological numerology.
That is correct. Yeah, and that is absolutely true. What you said is
Okay.
absolutely right. And so what has happened over the years, I mean, here in the Americas, I've had, most people speak the language right there. I mean, and they speak it better than me. So, I understand it. And then once in a while, I had some Spanish clients from South America, then at that time I had to hire a translator, a couple of times to, as a translator kind of, but that didn't happen that often, it happened a few times. But in most cases, they spoke better English than me, and I could talk to them, and I could explain my point to them, and then look at their numbers. So yeah, but that's a good one. Unlike this book right now is published by this publisher, and English is not it's not all over Europe, right? Because the Germans, the French, and there's so many other languages there, right? So it's good that you alerted me because I mean, coming in the future, right? If we pick some more translations, it'll be interesting to try to understand different languages and how would I communicate with them. See, that's
Exactly.
a very good point you raised. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something too I know that you're going to want to do because there are people of all different cultures and languages that are
Mhm.
curious about these things. I think one of the things that David used to say on the program, he says, because we used to open up the phone lines when we were
Mhm.
live, and he says people love to hear about themselves. They love to hear what's
Mhm.
going on with themselves and so
You're
forth,
right.
and especially when they're getting a reading when the reading is 99.9% right on.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Vedic astrology, and I would love for you to dive into this just a little bit,
Hmm.
it is not a guessing game. It is it is based on science. Is that correct?
That is true. It is. Vedic
Okay.
astrology.
To
Yeah.
describe the science that is used, if you can, in layman's terms.
Oh, so it's just like I said earlier, in the Vedic numerology tradition, we have numbers in a planetary association. Now, say for example, the energy of one is the mighty sun, or six is Venus, or nine is Mars, or five is Mercury, or four is Uranus, right? So that's how we can associate these numbers with planetary energy.
Hmm.
And then what happens is, if you go read someone's chart, right, astrology, I mean, Vedic astrology, Mars, and everybody knows Mars is not well placed in your chart, right? What it'll basically do is, it'll wreck your marriage first, and then, you become accident prone, right? So Mars does the same thing, whether it's the numbers or it's, the way it's placed in your chart. And so most astrologers, will read your chart and say, oh, well, your Mars is not that strong. So typically what this do is they'll suggest a stone like a red coral. Red coral is used to balance the energies of Mars and strengthen that energy.
Mhm.
So that's how it goes. And so Vedic is pretty much on the same lines. So over the years, I have researched it with my life and with my experience. And I have a little chart that I've made, and I can. So how I normally start is I look at someone's date of birth, and then from there I can get the best numbers that are vibrating, right?
Mhm.
And which of course is planetary energy. So just like in my case, when I'm born on April the 3rd, and so my energy works best with Jupiter and Mars, which is 3 and 9, right? And so if you look at my book, right, all about numbers, I mean, the number adds up to a number 9, because the energy is harmonized with my basic energy. I didn't put it anywhere else.
Mhm.
And if you look at I normally wear this color, I wear this color, basically to enhance my energy and stay with my planetary frequency all the time.
Mhm.
Right. So if I wear dark colors, like I don't like to wear black, I avoid black or drive a black car. Why? Because the energy of black, which is number 8, which is planet Saturn, right? Saturn typically would collide with my Mars energy. It kind of slows you down, right? It brings in challenges. So there it goes, the colors, and that's how the energy goes. So that is just to give you an example.
Now, I'm going to refer to you, of course, as Jesse
Yeah.
Kalsi, jessekalsi.com, which we will be linked to your website as well. But as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story, I want to find out more about your background and your time before you came to America. As we continue, I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and this is Tell Me Your Story. I'm with Jesse Kalsi, jessekalsi.com. That's Kalsi, JESSE. KALSI.com. We'll be linked to that website as well so that you folks can find out more about Jesse and the work that he does. May I ask, what was your birth name?
My birth name is Jasbir. It's not my official name. It's Jasbir. So I go by Jasbir Singh Kalsi. That is my official name.
And may I ask, because I know that it does exist, the meaning?
The
Is there a
meaning of
meaning?
Jasbir is, basically jazz. Just is, is just is basically just means to do the right thing, kind of. Just also means uh, also means fame, but just also means be. So to do the right thing, right? You are strong to do the right thing is what it means, Just to put it in layman words, yeah, yeah.
Well, Jasbir or Jesse, I thank you for sharing that with us. And where do you? And I don't
Yeah.
want to make the assumption that you're from India. You could be from Pakistan for all I know.
Yes, you're right.
But you mentioned the subcontinent, and so I'm curious, what part of that part of the world are you originally from?
I am from India, actually. I was born and raised in India, and I was born in the desert, a city called Jodhpur in Rajasthan. I wonder, a lot of tourists go there. It's a very interesting place. I was born there, and my father served the Indian Air Force, and then we kind of traveled all over the country. And then at about 18 years of age, I joined the National Defense Academy. And then after 3 years, I came to the Indian Military Academy, and then I got commissioned in the Gurkha Rifles, as an officer.
Mhm.
And then I served the Indian Army for 8.5 years, a little over 8 years actually. And then what was happening was, the political situation in India was kind of just changed, changed, and Sikhs are a minority anyway. And we had to experience some very difficult times in 1984 after the Indian Prime Minister was assassinated, and they wanted to basically clean up the entire Sikh community from India. So
Mm.
that it just bothered me tremendously, because I felt that I'm wearing a uniform, I would have been out retired in about another 10 years of my service. I got a pension and I settled down comfortably, right? But it just bothered me tremendously, because I felt that here I am, risking my life for this country, right? And they wanted to kill my parents, back home in Delhi. So my
Mm.
parents just survived by chance, survived.
Yeah.
So that bothered me tremendously, just bothered me tremendously. And then I did what I did. I quit, and so coming to America, I can tell you, it was a big chance. It was
Hmm.
the biggest chance I took in my life. Right, my father was very upset, and he was so unsure. I mean, I had a relative here at that time, here in Houston, Texas. But you know how it is when you're on your own. But I can tell you something. It is numerology, the science of numbers. This at that time, you know, connected me to the right people, right? To come out of a very difficult situation, right? And rise in this country. But I can tell you, America has been very lucky for me.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
lucky.
I want to talk about that as well, and also talk about lucky numbers and things of this nature as we
Yeah.
continue here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan along with Jesse Kalsi, and jessekalsi.com is the website. All about numbers is what our conversation is all about today. And we're going to continue talking about that as well as the power of house numbers. Now, when I was a kid growing up, I loved, not that I had any say in it, mind you, but somehow my street address just resonated with me. And
Hmm.
it was 1822,
Hmm.
1822 in Phoenix. And
What day and month are you born?
I was born June 26th, 1960.
Uh-huh.
And I know in Vedic astrology you also have the time of 3:17 a.m. and that which was a Sunday.
Uh-huh.
So I think I kept my mother from going to mass that Sunday,
Uh-huh. Oh boy.
being born and raised a Catholic.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
But numbers have always fascinated me. Patterns. Every so often I will look up at a clock
Hmm.
and I will see either three or four consecutive numbers or
Yeah.
contiguous numbers. In other words, all ones, all twos, all threes, fours, fives,
Yeah.
or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, et cetera, et cetera. And
Yeah.
I'm going, because I've heard that when you look at a clock, for example, a digital clock, obviously,
Yeah.
and you see patterns like that, there's something about that you just happened to look up at that moment to
Hmm.
see that. And for some reason, that is significant. Is it, as far as you know, is there some significance in our awareness in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked this question many times, and I see patterns too. But what I believe in is, say, for example, the number 11, 11, right, or 12, 12, and
Hmm.
things like that, or fives and all that. So what I believe is, that whatever you see, I mean, if those numbers flow with your own basic energy, I mean, if they connect with your code, I think it's a positive message. But if they don't, then it might not, bring in the right energy. Is how I look at them. So going back to your, so you said 26th of June, right?
Correct.
Yeah, June
1960.
the yeah, June the 26th. So what happens is, so Mercury is kind of very strong. So Mercury is communication, and that's what you're doing. You're talking to the world, right?
Hmm.
And what this also means is, from a gemstone, I can tell you a number five is Mercury. Emerald would be very good, one in the finger, for liquid cash and all that. So where are you living now? I mean, what is the number now? Home
Uh,
number.
oh, my phone number?
No, no, your home number.
Oh,
What?
home address.
Just the
It,
number, yeah.
the home address is 6574.
Okay, 6574. Okay, so
Yeah,
you have
and
Mercury
there's a
there.
pattern there too, because if you string them out in the proper order, it's four, five,
Yeah.
six, seven.
Yeah, it is, which is really good actually. Yeah. There is an order there. I agree with
Yeah.
you. There's an absolute order in there. And so you got Venus, you got Mercury, and you got Neptune, and you got Uranus. And so that's a pretty interesting number. So yeah. And the number two by itself, Moon works for you. So the number two and the five are your lucky numbers, based on what I know. And so Moon's repeating twice here, which is master, and you're born on the 26th. And so yeah, that's pretty good actually, and it's strong energy. But if you ever want to patch it, you can use another number one somewhere in the middle. So the two moons with sun in the middle is like yin and yang, father, so,
Mm.
moon, sun, moon, one, two, that black, white, that kind of energy.
Right.
212 would further shift it. But the only thing about 212, see, five is Mercury. Mercury moves fast. Mercury is slippery. If you live in a Mercury home, right, it'll work for about 5 years, and then you have to kind of, it'll then starts like comes down very quickly. So
Right.
that is the only disadvantage. But I think if you patch it with a number one temporarily, I mean, say about 5 years, It'll climb up, and then from there it'll launch you, even higher. Is how I see it.
Right. Well, what I can tell you is that we've been at that address for 15 years.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
that's pretty good.
there is what's interesting is that every so often we will be asked, so is that 6574 and a half, 1/2, a half? And I said, well, I understand that's probably what you're seeing on your screen, like the electric company, that kind of thing. But we've never been told that it was 1/2. There is no other building on the property with this exact address. But I just thought that was rather interesting as people are picking up on that half. So maybe that's where the one comes from.
Yeah, maybe yes. That's very interesting that you said that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let me ask you in regards to sort of shall I am now mixing cultures here, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully it won't blow up in my face. The feng shui aspect of numerology, if you
Yes,
will,
yes, yes, yes,
in
yes.
terms of, okay, I can't change my birth date.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And usually when I reference it, it's 6/26/60. All right. So
Mm-hmm.
I've got three sixes in there. Yeah, okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's the call of the devil, but there's a two in there, so it's not quite.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's usually how I refer to it. And because considering the fact that we haven't reached 2060 yet, so I can still say 6/26/60.
Yeah.
But then there's, of course, the birth time.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and so forth, which is the birthplace. And those are the three main things that people need, that a Vedic astrologer needs, as David
Yeah.
has told
Yeah.
me, to run a chart. And I know that a lot of people love to have readings and so forth. And so I want to ask you, because I know you're going to pull up the same information that he pulled up, but I'm curious about one aspect. Now he had told me this is what was in my chart, a chart, that around November of 2019. So this is going
Mm-hmm.
back as we're talking 2 years.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I was supposed to hit a phase for about 3, maybe 4 years, where I would have what he referred to as the Midas touch.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, that'll be cool. But the problem that I created in my own mind was thinking, oh, I'll do real well financially. When I know good and well that when we talk about prosperity, when we talk about abundance, when we talk about other things of this nature, it doesn't necessarily translate into dollars and cents. In this case, in the States, it doesn't always translate into money in the bank.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Prosperity comes in many different forms. So
Yes.
I'm just curious because I'm sort of here on the block, if you will. Can you
Yeah.
elucidate on that concept based upon that information?
Yeah. So that's another angle which astrologers use, right? That's basically the movement of the planets in there. So, but what I do is now, so looking at your basic numerology, 626, 1960. So you have Jupiter, right? So your
Hmm.
Jupiter vibration is really strong, right? Jupiter is the largest planet, right? Which is expansion and all good things. So that's really good. So, but what happens is, so so how I look at things is this, from your date of birth, which is 626, 1960. So we count the time from there. So 40 plus 21 is, so 61. So you entered your 60. So on your birthday this year, you entered your 62nd year,
Yes.
right? So now what happens is your 62nd year, see, is also carries the energy of planet Saturn, right? So planet Saturn is a cold planet. It moves very slowly, right? Yeah. So that's what happens. It's moving slowly. But what will happen is after the 21st of November, the energy is Jupiter is going to come in very strongly, right? It's going to come in all till about I said the first round comes till about April, which is really good. You know that energy, which matches your basic code, right? It's really good.
Hmm.
But otherwise, it's been a little, it's slowed down after your birthday. It's dragging you a little bit.
Yeah.
But it will, just watch 21st of November. Suddenly feel something.
I will keep that in
Even,
mind. That is a Sunday, by the way,
oh, it
this
is
year.
okay.
That
Okay.
is a Sunday, and as our conversation unfolds, that's a little over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks away as our
Yes,
conversation unfolds
exactly.
here.
That is so true. It's
Yeah.
around the corner.
Now,
And
what I would like to do is I'd like to talk a little bit more about this concept of numbers as we continue. We're talking with Jesse Kalsi, jessekalsi.com. We will be linked to that website. We hope that you will be too. I'm Richard Dugan. This is Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. Jesse, you know, we give people choices and knowledge of those choices to help make people's dreams come true on this program.
yes,
Not Oprah, and not everybody's getting a car, and you don't look under your seat for any envelope with money in it.
yeah, yeah.
But what we do is we provide a smorgasbord table.
Hmm.
Every guest brings a dish, metaphorically speaking, and you're
Yeah,
bringing a dish of numbers.
yeah.
And we place that on the table and we ask them to partake. If it resonates with them, go for it, enjoy. If it doesn't, don't touch it,
Hmm.
but come back because maybe that which didn't resonate with you before might now. So
Exactly.
I want to talk about numbers.
Yeah.
And we have a basic set of numbers here in the West. They're standard numbers, I guess you'd call them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and
Yeah,
0.
yeah,
Many people say that we can be thankful to what is it? The Arab nations, the Arab ancestors for 0. I don't fully understand that. I'll have to do some research, but there are also Roman numerals. But
yes.
something tells me that the symbol that we use to represent is not what is important here, is it?
That is true because Roman symbols are different, right?
True,
They are
but they still
different.
represent the same count, if you will.
Yes,
Two
yes,
eyes
yeah.
is 2, as
True,
is the
yeah.
number 2.
Exactly, exactly. The energy is the same, it's the same energy.
Yeah.
And by the way, zero was invented by India. It came from India.
Aha.
Yeah,
Okay.
zero came from India.
And
So,
what can you tell me? I know I'm asking for a little history lesson here, but what
uh,
can you tell me about how 0 even came up? Because this is a contention, if you will, especially within the Christian philosophy, as to BC and AD. At least that's what they used to be referred to. Now it's
yeah, yeah.
the Common Era and so forth, and
Hmm.
that there was no year 0 per se.
Yeah,
At least as far as I know,
yeah,
it went from 2 and 1 BC to, I guess, went to 1, 2, 3 AD.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
So,
supposedly around the time of Jesus' birth, I guess.
yeah, yeah. So I'll be honest with you, right? I know that the zero was it came from India, right? And I wouldn't know more than that. So I'll be very honest with you, right?
Okay.
But I
And
know
that's
it came
fine.
from there. Yeah,
But let's talk a little bit about the history of Vedic astrological numerology.
yeah,
Give us a little history lesson if you can, or tell
yeah.
us what you know about how how this has evolved over the centuries, or is it what you practice today is the same as what was practiced, say, 6,000 years ago?
That is in the affirmative. That is exactly, I have learned what was taught, what has been taught earlier, 6,000 years ago, right? So I've learned from there,
Hmm.
what the ancestors practice. So if you say that I have, the basics are the same, but what I have created or what I have been blessed to know is more my research, like, like the application of numbers, that's a little different, right? And that I have learned with my life experience, basically, working with people, and how this energy really works. I'll give you one example, right? So say, for example, the number 1 and the number 8, right? So 1 is the energy of sun, and 8 is the energy of Saturn. So now, even in Vedic tradition, right, this energy is father and son. If you read more, that's how it comes as father and son. One is light and one is darkness, but they never get along well. So if say, for example, if someone enters or lives in a house number which has ones and eights in it, right, or say if just a number, a 1 8 or a 1 0 8 1 8, something like that,
Hmm.
it definitely brings in things like cuts, injuries, accidents, family court, or legal separation. But it's good for people working in the law enforcement or in the medical field. You'll benefit professionally, but otherwise, those personal challenges would absolutely be there, right? So that's one angle. Then I'll give you another example of how number 5 and number 9, right? So you have a lot of 5 here on your, which is really good. Mercury communication, that's what you do, communicate to the world. And but 5 and 9 again, right? Has 5's Mercury, 9 is Mars, never get along, right? They always create that challenge. Then again, going down to number 2 and number 8, was Moon and Saturn too. Also, also is challenging. I'll give you an example, and that is the current president of the United States, President Biden, right? So just like I was looking at your numbers. If you look at his numbers, he turns 79 now in November the 20th, and he enters his 80th year, right? So Moon and Saturn again don't work well, which is a principle. It's not that it is not for him. It applies to everybody across the board, right? So that energy again is kind of destabilizing energy. Like someone's pulling the carpet under your feet, right? It's like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving you some examples of how these numbers and how these energies really work, and but then the thing is this, we have to know your basic stuff. See now, as far as we're looking at your date of birth, you're born with Jupiter, right? You're born with a very strong planet. You're born with the largest planet behind you,
Hmm.
right? So even if a home number was a little off here and there, your energy was so huge that you just kind of went through it, right? You know how it is. It's a large planet. It'll just go right through it, right? So
Yeah.
and that's what's been happening in your case,
By
and
the
that.
way, when you mentioned 1 and 8, and I told you what my address was when I was born, 1822, 1822.
Yes.
From there, I moved into an apartment complex, and it was 1645. I was
Uh-huh.
there for only a couple of years.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember the addresses of the trailer park or apartment complex, but I do remember the home. The first home I purchased
Uh-huh.
was 8218.
Uh-huh.
And then the second home that I purchased,
Uh-huh.
I didn't get to keep the first home, but I purchased the second home, was
Uh-huh.
18212.
Uh-huh.
And that was the last home that I owned in Phoenix before I moved to Santa Barbara. So I thought
Uh-huh.
it was rather interesting that the significant homes, the significant addresses,
Mm-hmm.
had eight ones and eights in them.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was very, very interesting how that works out. Is there any adding up? I mean, do you do that at all, or you really work with the numbers singularly, like a 1 and an 8? You don't sit there, okay, 1 and 8 is 9, and 9 is this.
Yeah, no, 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 it's not like that. No. See,
Yeah,
now mine is my number, right? But if
yeah,
you ask me, hey Jesse, go live in a number 1 8, I'll never do that because I know those planets don't work, right? I
right.
much work better with a number 3 6 or a
Yeah,
2 7. I worked with these numbers for most of my life. I worked with these numbers, they always work. But 1 8, if you tell me, hey Jesse, I'll give you this house for free, right? 108, go stay in it. I'll never go there. But like to answer your question, yes, I don't add numbers. I look at each planet individually. You know how it is.
yeah,
That's how you look at them.
yeah.
And that's how it's like the number of the White House. I've talked about that in my book as well, right? 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
See that number now. See, if you look at the number, right, it's got number 1 and number 6, right? The Sun and Venus, right? The Sun and Venus amplified with 2 zeros. Sun and Venus are never friendly together. They never get along well. Yeah,
That explains a lot, let me tell
yeah.
you.
And then 16 is that energy is a number of is trickery and deception. You
Ah,
know that's how that energy works. So I have suggested. I mean, some people might find it absurd and funny, but I believe that energy can be switched by turning the 9 to the 6 to the 9, right, to make it a 1900. With more Sun and Mars amplified 0 to raise the vibration higher for a head of a state, right, to sit there like the rising sun, right?
yeah.
Which I thought was very interesting, but yeah.
I even heard this. I even heard this that we hold specifically our presidential elections as well as our midterms on the national level. We hold them not only we hold them in the wrong month. It's the wrong place, and this is based upon the determination as to when this country's actual birth date was. Now, if you use July 4th,
Mhm.
1776, that's kind of the conclusion that was made by my friend, Vedic astrologer friend, David Hawthorne, that based upon that chart, we should not be voting in November. We should
Mhm.
actually be voting in the spring.
Mhm.
And I thought, wow, that's very interesting. I hadn't really thought too much about it. And of course, there's other reasons, even logistic reasons, why it would be better if we voted in the spring because we're heading into the winter, and a lot of times winter comes early, and it's tough for people to get out. They got to
Yeah.
stand out in the cold in a line and all those kinds of
Mhm.
things. I mean, just some of the logistics and so forth are just did make it more challenging, shall we say? It's very, very
Yeah, that
interesting.
makes a lot of sense. I'll look at that, research that myself. But
Yeah,
that's a good one you raised. I never thought about that one, you know.
yeah.
That was
Have you?
very
How
good.
long have you been practicing astrological numerology?
It's been about 20 years now, so
20 years.
20 years plus, yeah, more than 20
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
And what is it that interests you so much about it? And has there been for you, even though it's the same science
Uh-huh.
as 6,000 years ago, has there been sort of an evolutionary process for you?
Exactly. That is so well said. And that's exactly how I feel. I feel that, this it has definitely, changed, and it has evolved with time, right?
Mhm.
And I tell you why, right? See now, people call me all the time from, all parts, all from everywhere, and I'm so grateful for that. And see, I mean, if someone calls you and says, "Hey, if I tell them, oh, your number is not good, this and that," so that is not enough, right? You have to come with a solution, right? So this information that I give out is more solution based. I don't call it predictive numerology. It's more like to harmonize your energy. Where there's something called as number patching, and it's a technique that I use, for homes only, where we add a request, a client to add a certain number, a smaller number with a certain color, to shift the vibration, right, to change the energy, right, things like that. And so I can say that has definitely evolved with my experience, right? That energy has, definitely evolved. And then linking, times and certain numbers, and how energy shifts with those, that I have also learned with, over the years with time. So definitely there is something, I mean, not, I don't say a lot, but there is something there that has been a part of this evolution, right? And it's this number of businesses has certainly been refined a little bit, and that's what's been projected in my books.
I'm Richard Dugan, and we are talking with Jesse Kalsi. JesseKalsi.com is the website as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. We are new paradigms for a new world. That's what we're looking for. And we're also looking to give you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And we are here Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com. We are also on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. for a special edition of Tell Me Your Story. We hope that you will join us for that. And we are also podcasting these programs at SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many more. We have a video cast on YouTube. Tell Me Your Story, Richard Dugan. That is the channel. You can go and watch these videos. You can see a lot of different things there, including the debut of my very first and presently only song that I've written. I wrote the words and the music with a lot of help from Emily Yurchison, who's been not only a guest on this program, but also a guest host. And she interviewed me, and that interview is also up on YouTube. So I hope that you will take an opportunity to take a look and listen to that. If you'd like to support the work that we're doing here financially, we would greatly appreciate any support that you can send us. We have a PayPal account. It's for your security as well as ours. And all you have to do when you go to send any funds to us, they're going to ask you for an email address. It's richard@richarddugan.com. So anything that you can send us, we'd be great. We'll take energetic support too. Hey, I'm not opposed to that. We'll put that to good use too. We'll put that into these programs. And please participate in the Decade of Perfect Vision, the 2020s, where we ask you to go within. Stop, be still, be quiet, and listen to that still small voice. Jesse, let me ask you about the still small voice, our intuition. Does that have anything to do with any of the work that you do these days in terms of astrological numerology on the Vedic level?
That is, I'll say yes to that, and I'll say, it applies more to me and my inner being, right? And I always, with time I've started believing and listening more to my inner voice, right? And I always feel guided, I always feel as if someone is kind of telling me to, and whenever I listen to my intuition, I'm always right. It's like God's holding your hand, right? And but in the numerology business, really, what I'll be honest with you, when I do numbers for people, sometimes I see some visions, a little bit,
Hmm.
but that's come with time. But as far as intuition is concerned, absolutely yes. I'm guided by my intuition, right? And I've mentioned that in my book as well. And I listen to my inner guide, and I pretty much follow that very strictly. I do.
The book is entitled All About Numbers. Now, when we're talking about numbers, we are only talking about those 10 digits, 1 through 9 and then 0, because
Yes,
beyond that it's just a combination of those 10 digits,
exactly,
those
exactly.
representations. Have you looked into uh, the not only the color references, if you will, but maybe the tonal or vibrational references to each of these digits?
Yes, yes. There absolutely is. The color vibrations work with these numbers. So just giving you my example, right? With my Jupiter and Mars energy.
Yes.
So with my Jupiter and Mars energy, so I know what happened. I lost you here. Okay.
No, I'm still here.
Okay. So with my Jupiter and Mars energy, I'm very happy staying with my colors. You see, I wear a certain color turban and a certain color clothes more prominently. I also I use a red color all the time, which I feel is works very well for me. So that's what I do. And like in your case, I would say like off-white colors, or the color of blues and a little bit of green also bring you a great luck. Is basically looking at your numbers. So yes, there is an association with numbers and colors directly.
Yeah. Now, in terms of vibration, are there certain, oh, I don't know, are there certain, I want to say musical notes or compositions, maybe classical music or anything of this nature that would be recommended? I mean, certainly the individual who comes to you seeking, shall we say, guidance through a reading and a chart. Would you ever recommend to them listening to a particular genre of music or those kinds of things to help to get them sort of, I don't know, focused, re-energized, or what have you, as we would encourage them to go within to spend that quiet time getting re-energized and refocused and so forth?
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, I do that for myself. I listen to some instrumental music all the time, which is very traditional, right? It comes from there. It really calms me down. But then going back to that question of music, for those who are in the business of music, or those who have a group or an orchestra, there was this very famous Indian singer. I mean, a ghazal singer. His name was Mr. Jagjit Singh, and I observed this all the time. So in his troupe, he always had seven people. Seven was the number, but seven also in music in the Indian tradition is called, the seven, the sur. Sur is the word that they use, right? The
Hmm.
seven ways they play the music, right? So that number seven is very good. It's really, really important, to amplify the energy of music, right? To, make it grow, if you're in that business of music. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the other interesting things that I haven't studied a lot about this, but I have certainly conversed about this in this regard, and that's Indian music and the ragas. Now, here in the States, Western music, if you will, has 8 notes, 8 octaves, and so forth, but not Indian music. It is it's like subdivided and subdivided and subdivided,
Yes.
and I find that so interesting that the Indian music in particular has, between those 8 notes, it's got a bunch of other notes in it.
Yes, yes, it is very, very deep, and it is very advanced, and it definitely elevates you spiritually, right? If you sit in a quiet corner and listen to those traditional music, right, from the right people, right, it
Hmm.
definitely lifts your spirit. It makes you rise higher, in the
Yeah.
state of your mind. Yes.
It is fascinating to study. I mean, we've had a number of people, Jonathan Goldman, who we've had on here when he celebrates the annual Sacred Healing Day, Sacred Sound Healing Day, I think is how that's put together, where in February each year, actually it's on Valentine's Day or the 14th
Oh.
of February, promoting using sound for healing purposes and resonance and centering and all of the good things that
Mhm.
can be brought out. I've done a little research on the Mozart effect,
Mhm.
where they said that it transforms the synapses in the brain, maybe helps you study better, think better, and so forth.
Mhm.
And this was another area that I'd like to touch upon, if you don't mind. Again, if you have knowledge of it, great. I remember hearing from a local Swami here in Santa Barbara, who is a member, he's a Swami in the life inquiry, the self inquiry life fellowship.
Mhm.
And he told me about what's going on in England in the educational system where they're teaching students. This is not about resurrecting a dead language, but they're teaching students how to write Sanskrit. And that is changing the way they think. And I find that fascinating. And I'm thinking that numbers kind of can do the same thing, and those vibrations of those numbers can kind of do the same thing.
I agree with you. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with you. But I'm glad you told me this. I wasn't aware of Sanskrit being taught in English schools in the UK, right?
Well, that's what he was telling me.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the reason they're doing it is because they want to facilitate. This is not a covert operation by some government.
Yeah, yeah. It's
You
a
know,
language.
it is
Yeah.
something that's being done to help these students to, I mean, one of the things that I was always told about going to the library, go to the library, read a book and broaden your horizons.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
gee, if you can open up more of those synapses and have a greater thought process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's learning another language is always wonderful. It's
Yeah.
really good. And Sanskrit is so old, and
Now, now, you mentioned earlier about needing to get a translator, especially for people, Spanish-speaking people. Are you bilingual? Do you speak one of the Indian languages?
yes, I do. I speak Hindi, and I speak Punjabi, which is my traditional dialect,
Hmm.
and I can speak a little bit of Urdu. Urdu is it's Pakistan, and because India has a Muslim population too, so these three languages I can speak and understand.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I've often thought, and I remember meeting a girl, a high school student who came over to the United States. She was going to college at the university, UCSB, University of California, Santa Barbara. And she came here already able to speak five languages because that's what they were teaching in Italian schools.
Oh my God,
She,
Italian school.
and then she went on here in the States to learn, I think, Mandarin.
Oh my God.
And then, of course, most people wouldn't think of this as a language, sign language and
Whoa.
Braille.
She must be brilliant.
She is incredible, incredible young lady, incredible.
Wow.
And I think often about how deficient our educational system is here in the United States. Those are the kinds of things that would just foster the desire, the thirst for education. I think the thirst for
No,
education.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And I have a daughter. She, by the grace of God, she attended a charter school here in Fremont, and then she graduated this year from St. Mary's College here in Moraga, and with the BS degree, and she did really well. But she's born and raised here. But the advantage she has is, she can speak. I mean, not speak, but she can understand and pick up Hindi really well. She can understand this language, our traditional Punjabi, really well. And then because she's born and raised here, she's pretty proficient in the English language too. But she hasn't learned Sanskrit yet. I don't. She never will. But I'm sure she'd be more inclined to help me, or get into the Spanish this thing. So.
Sure.
But it definitely helps though, and other languages do it definitely help you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I am a such a strong advocate for education and not necessarily formal education, although that's helpful. I'm curious about education in India,
Yeah.
as much as you are aware. is it a good educational system, or is it
I
like
think it's an excellent
here as
education
in the
system.
States?
Oh, India is very good. The science and the math, that foundation, right, is really good. It's really, really good. And then parents are very strict, because there's such a large population, the competition is so high, right?
Hmm.
And they really drive their kids to, grades. Sometimes that's a little excessive, but that's fine at that age, right? And then and wherever they migrate all over the world, they have see. So if you look around now, right? Look at these temporary workers who've come from India, the southern part of India, or up in the high-tech industry, right? There's so many, right? And what is their background? Foundation is science and math.
Mm.
So they came with that strength of science and math, right? They're just everywhere. You see them everywhere, right? And I feel that, that foundational strength of science and math is very crucial.
I've often thought about that myself, and I have even made the comment. I'd love your observation on this. That here in the United States, when it comes to the educational system, when the budgets get tight, the first things that they start to cut are the elective classes like band and maybe physical education and so forth and so on. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, no, no, no. You need to cut the basics. Keep band and keep the arts and so forth. Because, and I even went down a list when I was thinking about band, for example. Now, when I was in high school, I took band and I played the baritone.
Hmm.
It's made out of brass. All right.
Hmm.
So, if you're and of course, as I mentioned earlier, I have written my first song so far, one. And the process of learning how to write a song, for example, you have to know about timing. So you're going to have to learn about math.
Hmm.
Okay. You're going to have to learn about English so that when you write the lyrics, they make sense to you as well as to the one listening to the song.
Hmm.
In let's say in band, a
Hmm.
baritone, all right? You're going to learn about music, you're going to learn about history, especially the history maybe of the music, especially if you're playing classical music from the
Yes.
masters going back several
Yeah.
hundred years. Okay, well, what about the baritone itself? It's made of brass. Well, where does that come from? And how do they make a baritone? All right,
Hmm.
so now you're talking about maybe geology, okay?
Hmm.
And you're talking about chemistry and so on and so
Oh,
on and
that is
so
so
on.
interesting. You're so
So
knowledgeable. You're so
you
knowledgeable.
can't, how can you lose the basics if you've got those quote unquote electives, you know? They
I
shouldn't be
agree with
cutting
you.
anything in my,
I agree with you. I totally agree with you, what you say. I absolutely agree with you.
yeah. Now, in terms of the competitive nature, and I know
Hmm.
we're going a little far afield here, you said that it's very competitive educationally in India.
Yes,
Is
it
that right?
is.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, describe the competitiveness and what is it that is being competed for?
It's basically, positions, right? Because it's a large population, right? And then as these kids come out of schools and step into colleges, right? They have to be at a certain point to be accepted in those colleges in India because they're not that many, right? But of course, they're opening up more now. But
Hmm.
a whole load comes out, right? And then if they aren't the best of the best, they don't get good colleges, right? And then, they don't get into good, basically life slows down for them, and they just and the struggle starts very early, see, soon after schools, that struggle starts, right? And so that is why it is so important, and for when parents realize that it'll push them as hard as possible to get higher grades so they can be well placed in a country like India, which is just a quarter. I mean, it's a quarter of this country, right? It's not that big with a large population, but it's basically survival is what you can say. You have to survive. It is the survival of the fittest in
Right.
Darwin's theory, and so that's what it comes down to.
Is there anything along the lines of something that's kind of going through this country right now in terms of not everybody is set out for a college career. Now, I took 3 semesters of junior college. I
Hmm.
went to a vocational school for broadcasting, and this is going back 40 plus years.
Hmm.
Um, and my sisters, I have 4 sisters, they all went to university. My
Mm.
brother went to a technical institute for engineering, electrical engineering. But I never went to, I mean, yeah, 3 semesters of junior college, but those were basic courses of English and math and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing huge. So I'm wondering, is there a place for someone who maybe just doesn't have the desire and or the drive and maybe even the aptitude for college?
Yes, now this is happening now with the current government, right? So they have started setting up, vocational colleges and schools, basically picking up on your, your talent or your aptitude, So if you don't get the best grades to a best college, they'll try to place you in places where you can hone on what skills you have, right? And
Mhm.
and you need people in various industries. So that has definitely started in the last some years. I've seen many of those vocational schools opening up, and younger children who are not very academically inclined are finding places in those institutions. So that is absolutely true. It's happening now. It's
Yeah.
going to grow over time, but yeah.
Yeah, because I find it really unfair to the children, no matter whether they're single digits or double digits heading through high school, going to college. It seems unfair to force them and tell them, no, you're going to college, whether you like it or not. And it's like my mother, when I was 16, and came into my room after I had gotten home from delivering the morning newspaper. I was exhausted and I didn't want to get up. She says, "Richard, it's time to get up for mass." So I
Hmm.
really don't want to go. And she said, "Okay." Years later, I asked her why. She says, "I didn't want you to push away from the church." And I have to wonder if forcing a child to go to college, telling them you're going and you're going to get a degree in this, that, or the other thing so that you can make money. Is that part of what's changing in India, as is changing here? The young people, they're realizing that money is not, even though they use the phrase, it's the bottom line, for them, it's not the bottom line. They want to be happy. They want to enjoy their lives. And I'm not talking about partying.
Hmm.
I'm talking about, like my father told me, Richard, find a job you love to do because you're going to be doing it for a long time. Don't get stuck like me. And I've been very fortunate that I've been in the right place at the right time most of my life.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That is
So what
absolutely.
about what about that for India? That's sort of what's kind of happening there too?
Maybe, yeah, it is. The reason is because we all connected because of the internet, right?
Yeah.
We all connected, on that same thread, right? And a lot of ideas, from here to there, from there to there, So what you're saying is absolutely true. That started happening too,
Yeah.
and people do feel like that, at many levels. So yes, I'll say yes to that.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more personal question, if I may,
Yes,
before we
please,
before
please.
we move on here. We all have our own style. We have our own look and so forth and so on. I have this hat, which is, I guess you might say, is sort of my brand.
It's a nice hat. It's a very nice hat.
Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
yeah,
And I wear it because actually I do like the way I look in it. I
yeah.
feel good in it,
Looks
and
very
plus
nice.
the fact that it keeps my head shaded when
Yeah,
I'm out in the sun so I don't get sunburn on my bald head.
looks very
I'm
nice.
curious as to the significance of the turban.
Yeah. So, I come see. I belong to the Sikh faith. The Sikhs, Sikh, and I'm sure you see many. I mean, all over America, we have about, I think it's close to 1 million Sikhs now in America, and so it's a Sikhs a religion, right? And I'm honestly very proud to be a Sikh, right? I mean, coming to America, I am what I am now, and I am what I am was there. I didn't change anything. I didn't come and adapt to a different lifestyle here. I just, I'm what I am.
Hmm.
And Sikh religion is it's a very giving religion. We believe in one God. We believe in seva. It's like helping people all the time. We believe in giving. We believe in hard work. And so it's really good. I mean, you see us all the time. We'll always, raise money for people. We always want to pick everybody up. I mean, it's about humanity. Mankind's equal, right? We're all the same, right?
Hmm.
And in many ways, I also think that the Sikhs are more like like I'll say that the Jews of India,
Mm,
they are the Jews of India,
yeah.
who
I
are,
would agree with you there. I
yeah,
absolutely would.
yeah.
I've met many in Phoenix. I think there's a temple, or I'm not sure what the name is, or shrine or what have you, where they meet and what have you.
Yeah, it's a Gurudwara. It's called a Gurudwara.
Gurdwara.
Yeah,
Learning
that's
the word
like a
together.
church. Sikh worshiping place is called a Gurudwara.
Gurdwara.
That is correct. Yes.
I am fascinated by the different philosophies around the globe, both present day as well as in our history. I've also made the conclusion, and I think rightly so, there is no philosophy that exists that came out of a vacuum somewhere. It is something that has grown out of something else, going back hundreds or thousands of
Yes,
years.
that is true. Absolutely true.
Where did Sikhism grow from?
Sikhism came. It came in the year 1539. It came around over 500 years now, and the first Sikh guru was Guru Nanak, right? So his birth, brought Sikhism in. That part of the world, right, is very casteist. Even today, India, I'll be honest with you, right, has a very strong caste system. They have so many divisions. Even if you look at Hinduism today, Hindus are like almost 80%. I'll say about 75% of India, but they are also so divided, right? There's so much this caste things going on, which is horrible. It's basically control of people, right? And so when Guru Nanak, the Sikh, Nanak, he came to this earth, Sikhism was born just to have a religion. There was no caste, creed, nothing. Human beings were, all humanity, everyone was equal, right? And so if you go to the Sikh temple, there's something called as a langar, we call it. It's like a community kitchen, where people sit down and eat together. They all sit on the floor, right? And it's no chairs, nothing, right? It's been like this all over the world, right? You can go to any Sikh temple anywhere in the world. They all sit down on the floor and they'll eat their food like that. And there's always unending supply of food for everybody. It never ends. It's like this, the Langar Seva was started by Guru Nanak 500 years ago. And people say that his energy continues like that. It's unending and it's so fulfilling. So that's how it is, right? So the purpose then to create the religion was to eradicate the sense of caste and creed. But I can tell you, but that is still there.
Yeah.
This in Indian society, it hasn't disappeared. It's still there.
Is there a particular writing that you use in your philosophy, in your faith?
Writing means, yeah, it's called Gurmukhi. It's another language, right? Punjabi. It's called Gurmukhi. Gurmukhi is the language.
Well, that's the language, but is there a writing? Is there a text? Is there an ancient wisdom teaching, if you will, like the Christians have the Bible, the
Oh
Jews have
yeah,
the
yeah.
Torah?
It's called the Guru Granth Sahib, the holy book. Yeah, the holy book is called the Guru Granth Sahib.
Hmm.
Yes, it is.
Interesting. I may have to look that up because it's something, again, to expand one's awareness of. I may never become a Sikh. That's not the purpose. It's to
And
understand
to learn more, yeah, yeah,
and learn more and
yeah,
appreciate
yes,
the differences that we share
exactly.
amongst ourselves.
Yes,
I've
yes,
often thought of it this way, that you and I both have exactly the same emotions. We go through the
yes,
same, we have fear, we have
yes,
happiness and joy and sadness and all of that.
absolutely.
That's what makes us the same. What makes
Exactly,
us unique is the stories behind those emotions.
exactly. Very
And
well said.
so that's very exciting in that regard. Jesse Kalsi, my guest. JesseKalsi.com is the website. I'm Richard Dugan. We're talking all about numbers here on Tell Me Your Story. We are continuing our program here with Jesse Kalsi, and I want to let you know, first of all, as we come to the end of our program here, that I thank you so much for sharing your story, the work that you do, and yourself with us. And I really appreciate the work that you're doing to help others to not just get through their day to day and week to week and month to month, but also helping them to raise their consciousness, their awareness as well.
Yeah, I'm very grateful, Richard, for you to have me as a guest today. I'm very grateful to you for having me let my voice out to the audience and to your group of people. I'm very grateful to you. Thank you so very much.
You are very welcome, and I'm hoping that we can get together again sometime soon to continue this conversation. I think this is something that's definitely worth discussing. People need to know what's going on in other parts of the world because they're not getting it from the sources that they seem to tap into. They seem to tap into their echo chambers, and that's about it. And we need. That's one of the reasons I loved the BBC. Was
Yeah.
because they told us about what was going on in Africa and in the
Yes.
Middle East and in India and Southeast Asia and so forth. But we don't get that here in the States from our networks and so forth. So that's something I think that would be fun to talk about. But I have three final questions I'd like to ask you that I
Uh-huh.
ask all of my guests, and you may have addressed them during the program, but I'd like to ask them directly.
Uh-huh.
But before I do, I need to address you, the listener and the viewer, and to thank you for listening and watching Tell Me Your Story. We're here Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., 9 a.m. Wednesdays, as we stream live at those times at richarddugan.com. We also podcast at SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, and many other locations on the internet, along with iHeart and Amazon Music. And our video cast is on YouTube, and you can watch these interviews on YouTube. The channel is Tell Me Your Story, Richard Dugan. Just look for the guy with the hat. And you'll know that you're there when you get there. So I hope that you'll do that. And also, I hope that you will support us financially with whatever you can through PayPal. It's there for your security as well as ours. And we thank you for supporting us. I thank those who have and who will support us. And I thank you with great humility and gratefulness for the contributions that we have received and will receive. We also ask you to participate in the Decade of Perfect Vision, the 2020s. Again, it's going in and listening to that still small voice, your intuition, whatever you want to call it. And also just pausing. And one of my guests told me, Jesse, even if it's just for 60 seconds, just 60 seconds to stop and listen. You know, because sometimes in radio, in broadcasting, 60 seconds of dead air is a long time.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. I agree with you. It is. Yeah.
So we hope that you folks will do that. And with that, I now go to the final three questions of the program. And again, my thanks to you for joining us. First of the three questions is, who is Jesse Kalsi?
Jesse Kelsey is known as an astronumerologist, but Jesse Kelsey is also a very, he's a very giving person. He wants to work with society. He wants to help people, in whatever way possible.
What is it that you hope to or want to achieve through the work that you're doing now?
I want to spread the message of numbers. I want to spread the knowledge that I've gained in some very difficult times of my life. And with that intent, I want to help people, to harmonize their lives, to rise above, to rise above difficult situations, and be successful.
And finally, what is your life's purpose?
My life's purpose now is to help people. I like to help people in whatever way I can. Within the means I have and in my capacity. I just love to help.
Well, Jesse, thank you again for joining us on the program. It's been a great pleasure not only to meet you, to get to know you, and to talk with you here on the program. And yes, we definitely would like to have you back.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful being here.
And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to lal.